Welcome to Chrome in 2022. She's a little bit foggy. We are at Hampton Downs. Now we have to park outside of the motorsport park. Take the old beastie off. Head over there somewhere to the VIP lane. Apparently we go through that with the car all the way down into the infield and then walk back up to get the ute and the trailer. Okie dokie, I need some exercise anyway, right? Okay, we better crack on with our first session. Our only session, grip session, is at, I think it's a 10 or 11 or 10:30 or 11:30 or something like that. We're probably 9 o'clock now, I guess, so should be enough time. A few beasties here, a few people hanging about, it's all good. Okay. Done the driver's briefing. I'm all legal to go out, waiting for the high horsepower and grip session or the roll racing. Old Mad Mike's little boy there, Tegan from The Rock and Hamish from Chrome and a whole heap of other things, doing their stuff and things. So you go to the driver's briefing. Have a cab stop so that basically you can take pretty much random people in your car for a cruise out on the track. So that'd be pretty awesome. Here's one of our good sponsors of the little march just here. Speaking of the march, there's a few people around it as usual. Not actually looking at the car right now, are they? They normally are. Gotta watch for cars. We're gonna get run over. More cars. Some food, I reckon I'll go over there soon. Listen all day. Look at that. Oh, that's a rotary now. Yeah, so our support vehicle for you is parked way over there. The March is here, so I've got to keep an eye out when we will be going out so that I can get my stuff organised in time. Well, I reckon there might be something about Chrome, GTR Festival, and Superlap actually. There might be something about the March. It's broken. So I didn't get to go out. I was all kitted up. We were in staging, ready to go out for the high horsepower and grip session, and the alternator decided that doesn't sound like a 4-cylinder, does it? The alternator decided that it did not wish to participate in the activities for today. So the alternator's just down there behind the intercooler pipe. Can't quite see it on the phone. It's very easy to get to. I'm going to double check the wiring. I've checked it as far as the plugs that are in the cabin here, and I've checked relays and fuses and stuff. Fortunately, I brought a battery and a pair of cables that I can hook on to the main battery, and we eventually got it out of the way. Sorry everyone for it sitting there and staging, broken. Can't blame these relays this time. Well, I don't think so anyway. I don't think they've got anything to do with it. So, I've got an alternator that's died. Maybe was dying the last time I drove it. It could have something to do with the way the car was running. So that's bad luck. Take it home, try not to swear too much. There have been a couple of colourful words used today. It is mentally very challenging when things just continuously stack up, but it's not easy or everyone will be doing it, right? So fix alternator and find the next problem. Well, there's your problem, as they say. That's gone open circuit. No continuity between here and here. If you can't create a magnetic field in here, you're not going to make any charge. That side of it may or may not be alright. That's definitely poked. Probably better just to get a whole assembly. A little bit. Should be disappointed, I suppose. It's not that old. It hasn't done that many hours. It is in a bit of a horrible environment though, so can't complain too much. Might pop down, assuming that's reading right. There's plenty of day left. See if we can get an alternator. It's literally a 5-minute job to change it. If the weather doesn't do what everyone's predicting it will do tomorrow, might be back and have another crack at it. Okay, I can't get another alternator. Not easily anyway, so we're done. That's the weekend over, unfortunately. I'm just doing a little bit of an autopsy, looking back through the logs. This is started at 30 degrees or whatever it says there. 39 it might be. So that's the bit where I've driven it around. You can see the map pressure changing and engine RPM and stuff, and I've tootled around into the staging area, and here's 14 volts, and it's not very stable 14 volts to be fair. A little bit of a dip here and there and quite sketchy looking, but it's charging. Which one's that? Log 13 or something like that, I think it is. So we can go into here, ECU log file, download. I think we were about 13. We still had charge, or it might have been 14. I've lost track of where I am. Let's have a look at 15. Right, try and remember where we're at. So 15. Oh yeah. Look at the battery voltage here. We're down to 10 volts. So I thought we were at 13. So 15's no good. Log file download. And 14. We may be able to see the actual point where it failed and what happened. There may be nothing in it. It might just stop charging. It might be charging, turn it off, start it again, and then it's not charging. So this one's 14. Oh, look, it's sketchy. But it is charging. And look, something funny goes on at the end here. How do we do this with one hand? It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Oh, look, you can see it. That's idle. Okay, so what speed are we doing here? 800 and something. And it drops out, that goes down. I start it again. It's still charging. There. So it's stalled for whatever reason, or I turned it off or something. Started it, and we've only got 12 volts. There. Okay. Told you it failed in staging. What a dirty trick. So there's, we could have a look through other things that are going on. See if there's anything that sort of points to what's happened. But as you can see, 11.37 volts there at what's our engine speed? 1800 RPM, 1850 RPM. And so at that point in time, it decided it's no longer charging. A couple of seconds prior to that, we had 2600 RPM, give or take, and we had 14 volts regulated, 13.95, right? So that is where it all went wrong. Yeah, so life goes on. There's a box, an empty box. There was a new alternator in that box earlier on today, and that alternator's in the car. That's supposed to be a 110 amp alternator. That may or may not be, I don't know, whatever. The one that came in this box is a 90 amp alternator. Just because it was quite a lot cheaper than the 110 volt amp, equivalent. So I won't throw that away. It does just need a new rotor, and it probably will go. The parts are slightly different in between this one and the other one, but they're might be a couple of pieces that'll be interchangeable, so we'll just keep it as spare parts, and if we need them, we'll try them and see if they're any good or not. This is the pulley that was on the end of the motor, crank pulley. Now I had modified this. Normally the alternator would be driven off this pulley that used to live here that got chopped off, and that was about 145 millimeters diameter. Just because of stuff and things, I ended up driving the alternator from this pulley, which was 155 millimeters in diameter. So bigger, smaller means faster, and the bigger this is, the faster this was that. That was the one that we were driving. The faster that will go. So, and the other thing was the alignment resulted in using a 4PK belt. This one right here, which actually had something gave it a bit of a nung at some point in time, but it was still serviceable, you know. So nothing wrong with the actual belt, but it's a 4PK. And you really should be driving an alternator of that size with a 6PK belt. Well, that's what factory does anyway. It did slip every now and then when it was starting, but it's not a big deal at all. So what I've done is I've got my spare one of these pulleys that I had sitting up on the shelf and put it in the lathe and demolished it and created a new pulley with the, chop this bit off and put the 6PK, what are we going to call this bit? The rim, the drive surface, the ribs, the outer, put a smaller one onto here. So we've now got the same as what the factory would have had. I did have this, which is ever so slightly bigger diameter pulley. There's not much in it. If we compare those two, you might be able to see it on camera, but it's just a couple of millimeters. Yeah, it's pretty well lined up there, isn't it? A couple of millimeters in it, but because it's such a small pulley, that makes a reasonable difference in the RPM of the alternator. And I did some basic maths because I suspected it was the revs that might have been doing the job with this pulley and with this pulley. At I can't remember if that was at 8,000 or at 7,800 RPM. We're at 20,300 and something RPM, which is overspeeding the alternator. So with the new pulley that I'll show you in a second, that's on the new pulley that's on the back of the engine, and that one there, we got down to 18,540 RPM, which is a lot better. Probably pretty acceptable. You shouldn't rev them past 18, but 18,500 you might get away with it. And there's a little trick that I play sometimes when I'm mucking around with stuff and things and I can't get the things that I want. This is an idler pulley, and you pop the bearing out of the centre of it. There's the bearing there, came out of the centre there. You take your old alternator pulley, you machine that down so it's a press fit into the inside of there, you get it aligned correctly and weld it all together. And then you've got a bigger alternator pulley. See, that'll actually pretty much fit inside that, see? And if we use that, then we take the RPM of the alternator, maximum RPM of the alternator, down to about 16,000. So we're well within tolerance, which will be good. It'll help it survive. So, back here. Poor little thing. Gets such a hard time, doesn't it? That's our pulley that used to be black, but because I've welded on it, it got hot and it distorts the anodizing. I actually don't mind the look of that, apart from the bit up there where I removed a logo because it's not really their thing anymore, right? Chopped and changed it, so I took the logo off it. If that was still gold or bronze, whatever colour you want to call that, burnt orange, I'd actually be happy to leave that on there. And there's our alternator. So we've got a belt somewhere. There it is. That wasn't cheap, that particular size of belt. There you go. So we've got a 6PK belt to drive all that now instead of a 4PK. So we're getting there. Hopefully we're getting on top of all these little gremlins that cause drama and stuff and things. So I'm going to modify that other pulley. and stick it on there, and then I'm going to change the length of my tensioner rod there, and we should be good to go. Just like that, a custom alternator pulley was born. I've got the 3 sizes now, I guess. That is ever so slightly bigger than that, and that's quite a lot bigger than that, right? So now I can tune things if I need to, but more than likely that's going to go on there, and that'll be it. With that on there, I'm pretty sure, did I say earlier? I'm pretty sure I'm 16,300 RPM or something, or 500, something like that. Maximum RPM on the alternator, which was well within the 18,000 RPM recommended maximum that the internet is talking about. I probably could do the maths and see what Nissan was running that up to based on their pulley sizes. It doesn't really matter, does it? I broke it. I'm fixing it. I suspect this is the cause of the failure, so we'll slow it down. That's, no, it's not terrible, right? So looks like there's another line there, but don't worry about that line. That's got nothing to do with anything. That is welded to that. On the front side where you can see it, if you're worried about concentricity, etc., it's I'm not going to call it 100% perfect, but it does run very true and sufficient for what we're doing. No wobble to be seen there. So that will work perfectly, bearing in mind there's a rubber belt going on there, not a gear or anything like that. So I could put the DTI on it, but we're not going to bother. So all I have to do now is put a little paint on that, or a little rust, stick it on the car and set up the belt tension, and fire it up, make sure it works at idle with fans going. We've got enough voltage, etc. If we have an issue where we're not making enough electricity at idle, we'll put that one on and speed it up, and then we'll just have to take our chances at the other end at 18.5 or whatever it gets to, and hope it holds together. Sorted. Sort of. So that's up and running. Everything's mechanically 100%. Pulleys are running nice and true. Belt's tight. Remade or adjusted, modified, whatever you want to say. The tensioner there, which isn't an ideal angle, but it's fine. It'll be okay. We're charging at 14.7 volts instead of like 13.95, 14 volts. Not sure I'm entirely happy with that. It's a little bit high, perhaps. Might be just the way that is. I'll look into that. But other than that, pretty much good to go. It's still got petrol in it, etc. We just need another track day to run it at. We better carry on with that blue car there. Alright. Thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.